Hey, welcome back to Enabled. It's been a while since I've made a YouTube video. There's been a lot of stuff going on and I just haven't had time to spend as much time as I'd like to doing this stuff, but I think we're going to try and pick up where we left off. So I believe the last time I posted a video, we made this analog joystick that attaches to a Xbox adaptive controller. We've got the 3.5mm jack here, and then we have a cable that runs to the controller, and that seemed to work pretty well. Today we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to do a momentary joystick, or like an arcade click type joystick. So this one is exactly that. We're going to do pretty much the same thing we did for the analog joystick, except it's a different type of joystick, and with that comes different connections. So let's see if we can make it happen. For this project, we're going to need a joystick. So in this case, I have a Zippyy Joystick, and the reason I went with the Zippyy Joystick is because it was the cheapest one I could find. We need something to put it in, so we have a project box, and this is the same project box that I use for the analog joystick. It fits the Zippyy Joystick nicely. If you use something other than a Zippyy, like a Suzo Hap or something like that, you're probably going to need a larger box. Of course, you could make your own out of wood or whatever you wanted to. With the joystick comes a top of your choice. I have several different colors, but this one I just picked out of the box was yellow. We're going to need a 1/8" audio jack, or a 3.5mm jack. We're going to need 4 of these this time. Now this one I hold in my hand is a TRS jack, which means it has 3 terminals on it. You could use a mono jack, which is just a TS jack that only has 2 terminals on it. You could also use one of the 4-pin jacks that we've used previously. I have a bunch of these, so that's what we're going to use here for this project. And then optional are these 2 adapter cables. These actually plug into each other, like so. We're going to use the male version, and we're going to attach. These are specifically made for this type of joysticks, so each one of these spade terminals connects to the joystick connectors, and then the other one, I'm just going to cut the end off of it, and we're going to wire these wires up to the jack, and that's going to allow us to easily plug and unplug the joystick from the box. We'll be able to pull it out and replace it if we needed to. Now, you don't necessarily need these 2 harnesses. You could just wire directly from the jacks to the joystick if you wanted to. That's completely up to you. The first thing we want to do is take the lid off of our box. This particular box comes with 2 cable glands, which is really nice. We don't really need them for this project, but I'm going to hold on to those because I do use those in a lot of these things. There's also a weather-tight seal, so this is supposed to make the box waterproof. We're just going to throw that in the trash. And then we also need to take the plate off of our joystick. So I removed the 4 screws that was holding that on. And similar to the analog joystick, this plate does not fit in the box. So we're actually going to mount it to the top of the lid, and that's what's going to hold our joystick inside the box. Now, you could, if you wanted it to be a little bit nicer look or whatever, you could cut the corners out of this box so that the lid fit, or you could trim the lid if you wanted to. There's multiple ways to get this to fit down inside the box if you wanted it to, but I'm too lazy to do that, so I'm just going to mount it to the top of the lid like so. And then I'm going to run my 4 screws down into my joystick, and that's what's going to hold it in there. So we fit our joystick. It fits just barely, But in order to get it to fit a little bit better, we're just going to bend these tabs down on each side, and that'll give us a little bit more room to move around in our box. Alright, simple enough. The first and the hardest part of this project, I think, is we need to drill holes to attach our joystick, and then we need to drill a hole in the center. So for this particular joystick, I just went to the old Google machine and searched for the dimensions of the Zippyy joystick, and I was able to find a diagram. So I took the dimensions that I found there and I just drew a template in PowerPoint. So what I need are these 4 holes. So I drew a square of 1.97 inches or 50 millimeters, same dimensions on both sides, and then I just cross-hatched right through the middle of them. And if you hold that plate up here, I wasn't sure if that was actually the right dimensions, but if you hold the plate up here, it does line up with the corners of that square with those 4 holes. That's exactly what we're looking for. So what we're going to do is cut this out, and then we're going to hold the square onto the lid, and we're going to drill holes at each of the corners, and the crosshatch in the center is going to be for our joystick shaft, so we're going to drill out that hole also. And then down here, while I was at it, I went ahead and printed a template for the 3.5 millimeter jacks that we're going to install. So we're going to install these on the side of the box like so, and I have those spaced out 1/2 inch. So there's going to be 4 of them total, 1/2 inch spacing, and that comes out to about 12.7 millimeters. Here's what it looks like when you've got the templates taped up. So this one I've already drilled the holes. What I did is I just taped the paper in the center. I did measure both directions to get it as close to the center as I could. And then I took a small drill bit and I drilled 4 holes around the outside, and then I drilled 1 small hole in the middle. I'm going to go back and remove this template, and then I'm going to drill these holes larger, big enough for our screws to go through. And I think that's going to be approximately, well, I don't know. I'll let you know what drill bit I use after I use it. The one in the center is going to be 1 inch and 1/8 is the correct size, but I still haven't found my 1 inch and 1/8 spade bit. So, well, yes, I have. I'm going to use 1 inch and 1/8 spade bit. How about that? And then this guy, this is for the jacks. I haven't drilled these holes yet, but I did tape my template in here. You want to get the holes as close to the bottom as you can, but you need to have them up far enough that your jack will actually fit inside, because if they're down too low, it'll hit the bottom and you won't be able to install them. So I've got this taped up. I'm going to drill 4 small holes, and then I'm going to open those up larger as well. Here's what it looks like when the holes are drilled. So I've got my big 1 inch and 1/8 hole in the middle, and I went with number 18 drill bits on the 4 holes on the outside. That size doesn't really matter that much. You want plenty of clearance to get so your attachment screws just fall through there. You don't want a very tight fit. And if you get your holes misaligned a little bit to where your joystick doesn't mount correctly, you can just open these holes a little bit more, and that'll help with that. So this is ready to install. The joystick will go on here, and then we'll put the plate over the top of it like so, and then we'll put our 4 screws in. I also got the holes drilled for the 3.5 millimeter jacks. So these are 1/4 inch holes, and these jacks will fit into the back like so, and then there's a nut that we'll thread on here. But before we do that, we want to wire these jacks up. But since we're doing a click type joystick, all of the ground, so each direction, up, down, left, and right, has a momentary switch on associated with it. So the angled terminal on each momentary switch is the ground, and we're going to connect all of those together. So the harness that I'm going to use already has the black grounds daisy chained together. So if we open this up, you'll see that there is a black wire that runs and goes to a terminal, and then a second black wire comes off of it and goes to the next terminal, and so on and so forth. It does that 4 times. So what that does is it connects all 4 grounds together. And that's exactly what we want to do on our 3.5 millimeter jacks. So technically, we only have to wire 1 black ground up to 1 3.5 millimeter jack, and they would all work because all the grounds are connected here. But I think it's better to go ahead and connect your ground wires across all 4 jacks. That way, if you only wanted to use 1 or 2 directions on your joystick, you could still do that. Here's what we got. So I installed the jacks backwards. That way this box can be used to hold everything together. Then I cut 3 pieces of short wire. I just have some black wire. I think it might be 24 gauge. Yeah. 24 gauge wire. I cut 3 equal pieces. I stripped the wire, and then I soldered daisy chained each one of the ground terminals together. The ground terminal on these, and I think most jacks like this, is the longer one. So there's 3 terminals. The longer one is at the top. In this case, looking at it like we are now, that's the ground. And then the second one that we're going to use for each one of the directions, the up, down, left, and right, is the rightmost terminal, which would be this one here. And then the third one on the opposite side won't be used at all, so there'll be no wires connected to that. So the next thing we need to do is take our harness, which would be this one, and we need to cut the ends off of it. And we don't need a lot of wire length, so I'm going to cut it about here, I think, and then we need to strip each one of these wires. Okay, I went ahead and soldered all the wires up. So the way I have them mounted in, I've got the red wire over here, and then I go orange, yellow, and green, and then I attach the black wire to the black wire here. Now it can be attached to any of the black wires, it doesn't matter. I just picked this one because it was convenient. So I need to undo all of these nuts, flip everything over to the other side, and then I went ahead and connected the other harness up to this joystick. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know that I really need to show too much on this one, but the black wire goes on the angled connector, like I said before, and then you just go around in a circle. So you go red, and then the next one's orange, and then the next one's yellow, and then green. And you can look at this thing to see what direction does what. So if you're looking at it in this direction, and this would be up, of course, any direction you want could be up. It doesn't really matter. But if you have it in this direction and you go up, you can rotate it around to see which switch that's actually clicking. It would be this one here. So you're going to need that later whenever you try to figure out which jack does what. So let me get all this installed and then we'll wrap it up. Here we are. I got the jacks all installed the right way. And I went ahead and installed the joystick into the lid, and I got the ball top on there. So now we just need to plug the two harnesses together. Well, this is more difficult than it should be. Okay. And before we go permanently install our joystick, I like to test it as much as possible. So I've got a pile of cables here that I'm going to plug into these jacks. Now I'm using TRRS cables, which are the ones that have 4 contacts on there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use TS cables or TRS cables. Will also work. The reason that I use the TRRS is because they also work for the analog joysticks. And rather than getting a bunch of different kinds of cables, I just get one that will do everything. This one I randomly grabbed as a TRS cable, so it has 3 contacts on it instead of 4. So we'll plug that in as well. Okay, so the way I have it set up is the red wire, so the one on the very left should be the right direction, so I'm going to plug that into the right hole on the Xbox controller. The next one is going to be the down direction. So that's the orange wire is in the down direction. So I'm going to plug that there. The next one in line, which is the yellow wire, is going to be the left direction. So we're going to plug that into the left button. And then the last one, the one on the far right, is going to be the up direction. So we're going to plug it into the up direction. And then we're going to go into the Xbox accessories app. I've got this plugged into my computer. And we're going to go into test mode. Press a couple buttons, make sure it works. Okay. And then we're going to pull this guy up. And then it should be this direction, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to push up, and we should see up on the screen, and we don't. Right is down. So something is not right. That's saying it's down, so if I go down, that's there, left, up, and right. So it is all correct as far as the rotation. But I intend for this to be like this, so this should actually be down instead of left. So that's okay. That's easily fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. I'll retest it and then button this back up. I got everything fixed. All I did was unplug the terminals on the joystick and just rotated everything one position counterclockwise. It really doesn't matter what order you do it in. The only reason that that was important to me is because I had already built a joystick just like this, and this was the order of the directions, and I wanted to keep them the same. So if you're starting from scratch, it really doesn't matter how you do this. The very last thing we'll do is make a label like this. I just made this with a label maker. You could of course mark it however you want to. One last tip is, in order to get, because this is kind of tight in the lid, in order to put the two together, you may have to bend these terminals around and the wires around. I've already done that and verified that it fits. So you just put the two halves together, poke your wires down in the hole, and then put your 4 screws in. And this is a finished project, my friends. Well, I consider that another success. So this is another joystick that we can use with the Xbox adaptive controller, and I'm also working on my own adaptive controller that will be able to use this on that as well. So it's starting to come together. I'd really like to put some game time on this stuff to really test it to see if it works in the long run. But I got to get more buttons and stuff before I can really do that. So in the next month or so, I'm hoping to have more things together, and I'll share that with you guys whenever I have it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I know I certainly did. If you haven't done so, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.